Here's a timeline where I've got several different objects on it, so let's take a look at what they are. I'll play, and as you can see, we've got some text and we've got some highlights. So let's look at this one, which is the text. You can see I've got a bubble there, and I've got a different one earlier. If I jump back to that frame, and then there's a highlight that comes in slightly later than the text. The text is earlier on the timeline. So I'll click in here and we can see both of the shapes that are present at that frame, and then we're going to look at the next one, which is a question mark that we're also adding. And the reason why I added that is to pose a question in audio and have that icon to accompany it and to make it clear that I was adding in some extra audio, which you can see is a separate track that would be a question. So I did that by pressing sound and then record sound, and there's the icon that I added in, so there's a visual as well. Now, coming back to where we were looking earlier in the timeline at the text and the highlight, we can see that the highlight plays, and we can see that we've set the highlight so that it focuses our attention by excluding the items around it, by covering them in a screen. That's called an exterior highlight, as you can see. In fact, we're actually using one again right now. Now we can also adjust the length of the clip simply by typing in a different number, or alternatively on the timeline we can grab hold of the end and pull it. At the start we can't extend it by pulling, but we can move it by pulling and then extend the length at the other end, and by adjusting the position at the start we are able to adjust it to what we want. But how do we get those text boxes? Let's take a look at this button. We're going to grab it and pull it over into the main window, and there it is, just exactly like the ones we've used before, because we've selected one of the same style. And we're going to type in here just example, and then we can move it around. When it comes in, it's got a pause on it. I tend to delete those, and I simply decide to display it for a set number of seconds. That's because the pause works in their own platform, whereas this works on every platform. There is the option to do both, but I keep it simple. We can click onto it and we can change, for example, how long it displays for. Like we use the question mark, we can use other images like this and decide on how they come in and out. If we look at this menu for the highlight, it's showing as an exterior highlight, and by contrast an interior highlight would be one in which the fill was on the inside of the ship. The issue with that, of course, is that if you make it too opaque, you're actually blocking out what you see, but it can work well otherwise if you have the opacity set to being low. In this case, this is what it looks like when you vary the opacity to very high. Now it didn't look too bad because there's still a transition on it. We look at the transitions, it tells us how long to fade in and fade out. If we take those off or turn them down to 0, then it won't be fading in and out at all, and we'll have what is effectively an opaque shape blocking out what we want to see. So that's sort of the opposite. And if we did then switch that to, for example, being an exterior shape, we'd be blocking out everything. So again, those are pretty harsh when you have the opacity up at 100%. So you probably don't want to do that, and it's a much nicer effect if we have the opacity at a lower level and the transitions. So I'll put those back to the half a second fade in and half a second fade out that they were at before. Just typing the numbers in there, and that should allow us a quite pleasant effect. And we'll set the opacity back as well. And there we go. Back to our quite pleasant effect. It does draw the eye without blocking anything out. We can also select one and we can copy and paste. that's probably the easiest way to duplicate and to keep the style the same throughout, by simply selecting and copying and pasting, because it actually copies the transitions as well. So it's extremely effective.